costs. Just like that, Colton was unemployed, humiliated, and alone with 3 kids and nowhere to go. After the eviction, he did the natural thing and moved back into my dad and Claire's house. But their house only has 4 bedrooms. One for my parents, one for Owen, who was away at community college but came home on breaks, and one that Claire used as her sewing and craft room. So Colton and his 3 kids got crammed into the last bedroom together. According to my dad, the whole household was miserable within 2 weeks. The kids fought constantly because there was no space. Colton complained about everything: the food, the water pressure, the internet speed. He expected Claire to watch the kids all day while he supposedly looked for work. Months went by with 0 interviews, yet Claire quietly kept paying the insurance on his one remaining truck because he couldn't risk losing it while job hunting. Every phone call with my dad turned into a long list of complaints about how exhausted everyone was. I sympathized. Honestly, I did, but I stayed out of it. It was not my problem. Then, one Saturday afternoon, my dad called and said he and Claire needed to come over and discuss something important. My first thought was that someone was sick. Seriously, that's how grave he sounded. Instead, they sat down at my dining table looking painfully nervous. My dad couldn't even meet my eyes. Claire cleared her throat and said, "We've been thinking about Colton's situation." I nodded and stayed quiet, but the pit forming in my stomach already knew. She continued, "Your house has so much room, sweetheart." The second those words left her mouth, I knew exactly where this conversation was headed, and I had a sinking feeling it was about to change my relationship with my family forever. Claire leaned forward with her hands folded on my table, like she was opening a business negotiation instead of asking me for something enormous. "Your father and I were thinking that maybe Colton and the kids could stay here for a little while, just until he gets back on his feet." I looked at her, then at my dad, who still couldn't look at me. "How long is a little while?" I asked. Claire glanced at my dad and shrugged. "A few months maybe." That answer alone told me they hadn't thought any of this through. A few months could quietly become a year without anyone ever agreeing to it. I asked if Colton had found a job yet. My dad quietly said no. "Is he actively interviewing anywhere?" I asked. Another uncomfortable silence. Claire finally murmured that he was focusing on getting the children settled first, which was a curious answer considering he'd been living rent-free with them for almost 3 months. Then Claire finally got to her real point. She said she actually had a different idea, one that might work better for everyone. I knew immediately that I was not going to like it. "Maybe it would be easier," she said, "if you stayed with us for a while instead." I blinked at her. I genuinely thought I had misheard. "Stayed with you," I repeated. Claire nodded carefully. "Just temporarily, honey. That way the children wouldn't have to keep bouncing around, and your house already has enough bedrooms for all 4 of them." I actually laughed out loud. Not because anything was funny, but because the request was so completely absurd that my brain didn't know what else to do with it. "So let me make sure I understand this," I said slowly. "Colton doesn't want to stay here with me. He wants me to move out of my own house so that he can move into it." Claire immediately tried to soften it. "It's not like that, sweetheart." "Then explain to me how it's different," I said. She opened her mouth, paused, and closed it again. My dad finally spoke up. "Honey, you're one person. He's raising 3 children." And then Claire added the sentence I will never forget for as long as I live. "Besides," she said gently, "a young woman doesn't really need a whole house to herself. You'll get married eventually and start over somewhere new anyway. Colton needs stability now." I sat there in complete silence for a moment. I leaned back in my chair and looked around the dining room I had spent months renovating. Every cabinet, every light fixture, every floorboard. I had installed them myself. I remembered entire weekends covered in drywall dust because I couldn't afford contractors. I remembered eating gas station sandwiches on an overturned paint bucket because I didn't own a table yet. And now the 2 of them were sitting at that same table asking me to pack a suitcase and leave because my stepbrother had decided he deserved my house more than I did. "Did Colton actually ask for this himself?" I said. I already knew the answer before it came. My dad sighed. It was his suggestion. Of course it was. Claire reached across the table